Good evening everybody, welcome to the World Owl Trust again, and this evening we are going to be looking at our beautiful long-eared owls. These are our most reclusive of owls. They are found throughout this country and Northern Europe, and actually through North America as well. They're shy and nocturnal, and they live on the edge of coniferous forests, plantations, in small clumps of trees on moorland and farmland. They're quite difficult to monitor because they're so reclusive. So there hasn't been a lot of extensive surveying of them. The Scottish Raptor Group have done quite a lot. They've probably done the most in the UK, and we reckon we've got between 2,000 and 3,500 breeding pairs, which is approximately 1% of the total European population. They are great camouflage experts, and this is one of the reasons we don't see them. So if you look, they're slightly lighter coloured than the tawny owl, and they're all blurry around the front here. They've got this amazing facial dish, and he will eventually, this is Ezra, he will eventually put his ears up when he settles down. He prefers to be sitting on his perch, but I've got him on the glove so you can see him a little bit more clearly. He is a hearing owl because you can tell by this amazing facial dish he's got here. These ears are just feathers. They're not actually to hear with. They're more of, they're there for two reasons. Firstly, when they are roosting, they go very tall and thin, and they go up against the tree trunks, and they go like stick-like, and their ears come up, and we think that helps break up their outline when they're roosting, so other birds can't find them. The other thing is it does give you an indication of how they're feeling, a bit like a dog wagging its tail. They, as I say, have nothing to do with the hearing, and their ears are actually down either side on the edge of his facial dish. Now, when they are chicks, you can actually see, before this dish is formed, you can see their ears, and they're quite long. So whether that is another reason they're called long-eared owls, apart from the tufts, they have flaps that go over these ears, so as they change their facial shape, their ear apertures either open or close. So when they're relaxed, they go all fat and round and happy. And when their face is round, then that ear flap is more likely to be closed. When they're worried and they wrap their face round and it goes really sort of stretched, that will open the ear flap up so that they can then hear more easily. They've got quite a big wingspan for such a little bird. So they're what's called low-loaded, which is the same as the barn owl. So if you can see here, that is my other little guy in flight. If you can just see how big his wingspan is compared to his body. And if you turn him round, there, and he sits, sit still, good boy, good boy, good boy. Turn round. So if you turn round, you can see his wings, when furled, are slightly longer than his tail feathers. And the barn owl is exactly the same. In fact, the barn owl is a greater disparity. And this means that he's got a small body and large wings, which means he can, when he's hunting, he's using the minimum amount of effort, because they quarter backwards and forwards across open countryside and over hedgerows, listening for their prey. So they do it on the minimum amount of wing flaps. I'm just going to pop him back there. You're going to sit there? Good boy. That's it. So they use a minimum amount of wing flaps to move them forward. They don't need the same amount of ruddering as, say, a tawny owl does, because a tawny owl has to flip in and out of trees in woodland. Because they're in open country, they've got a greater area to turn. They actually also use headwinds so that they can stall and slow. They can also hover and listen when listening for their prey, and then they can also help them turn on their headwinds. They hunt for voles and raptors, voles and other rodents, and they also will go for frogs and small birds and things like that. They live on the conifer edges, because although they are quite happy to live in mixed and broadleaf woodland, that brings them into conflict with the other British owl, which is slightly bulkier, which is the tawny owl, and they go for the same prey. And the tawny owl will actually predate a long-eared owl, as will the European eagle owl and also daytime raptors. So they tend to move their bases into more new woodland areas, plantations, mixed woodlands, and these smaller pockets. So it keeps them out of the range of tawny owls. They've also got good populations of them in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, because there are no tawny owls over there. Don't know why, but I'm sure they will eventually get there. But these guys have got a stronghold because they don't have to come up against the tawny owl. So they're very, very quiet. You don't really hear them until the beginning, as they start getting together in the breeding season. So for our resident birds, that will be sort of late November, late October, early November, and the males make a very sort of throaty hoo, hoo, hoo noise. The females are slightly more high-pitched staccato reply. So they will start calling to each other then, getting ready to nest. Unlike other owls, like the tawny owl and the barn owl, who like boxes, and little owls who like boxes and tree holes, these guys actually use the nests of other birds. So abandoned nests of corvids, buzzards, sparrowhawks. They've even been known to use the grey squirrel drays. So they'll take those over. They can lay up to 8 eggs and incubate for between 30 and 35 days. So if you want to hear them, you've got probably about 3 months to hear the adults. Then the next time you'll be aware of them is round about now, because at 4 weeks old, the youngsters start branching. So like tawny owls, they will come out of their nests and they start climbing up the trees. If anybody's been watching Spring Watch over the last 3 weeks, they had a long-eared owl nest on there, and I think you'll probably be able to find some of the footage on their website. It's brilliant to look at. You can see how they work, and they've got this amazing youngster who literally comes out and climbs up the conifer tree. It's absolutely brilliant. So they then start squeaking, and their feeding call is very high pitched, it's very strident, and it is like a squeaky gate. It's known as a squeaky gate. So if you're in that type of area and you hear a squeaky gate that is going late at night, then you've got long-eared owls, and it's worth going and investigating. The way to find out where they are, because they're in conifers, looking up isn't going to be much help, is look around the base of the tree. As we were talking about in Signs and Signals last week, is look around the base of the tree and see if you can find any, well, splashing, white splashing, if it's come down that far, but pellets, any pellets. And also, they are beginning to molt at the moment. So the other thing to look out for is these amazing feathers. They are so pretty, and they will start getting rid of their primaries now. And how they molt is all birds of prey, and anybody that's got kites in the area will be able to see this illustrated, is they lose corresponding feathers off each wing so that they always remain balanced. And then they do exactly the same on the tail, so they'll lose their corresponding feathers on their tail. So anybody who lives in an area with red kites, start looking out. I know they're molting because I'm finding their feathers in my garden. If you look up, you'll suddenly see gaps on their wings and on their tails, and they will be identical sides, so that it tends to keep them more in balance. So the youngs then start moving on and look for they'll move away for a while and then start to find their own territories, and they will be leaving end of summer. So these parents will have a bit of a respite before they start again, and start looking to mate again and get together again in the autumn. They don't tend to live near human beings in this country. In Serbia, that's not the case. There's an amazing place in Serbia where they all come into the town during the winter, and you'll get 50, 60, 70 birds all in one tree. They've got plenty, because in Serbia they don't have commercial farming like we do. They still use the old-fashioned farming. They've still, a lot of them, got horse and carts for transporting things through, so they've got a lot of rodent populations all around their areas, so there's ready food for these guys, and it's quite a tourist attraction. You can go and visit and go and see these groups of amazing birds. There is a concern that the farming is becoming more intensified, and this is going to affect their populations like it is affecting their populations in this country. So they tend to be slightly more reclusive here. They do have a migratory tendency, so we do get in the winter we get the birds coming over from Northern Europe, and they tend to land on of course, come across the North Sea and land up in the northeast and the southern parts of southeast parts of Scotland on the coast there. And quite often when they're coming over late autumn, early winter, groups of them, they fly in groups, can be found exhausted sitting out in the open trying to get themselves together before they then go and find roost. At that time, some of the northern birds will then actually move south, and they will migrate south. So resident birds, they're quite antisocial. They don't tend to mix with anybody from out of the area, but you could easily see them, because we've got more numbers in an area in the winter, actually being pushed out and having to roost in deciduous trees. So if you keep your eyes open, then you'll find them in groups. You can see now his ears have come up. So he's listening more. So you're more likely to see them in groups. They are in decline, sadly, really in decline. They are being affected by intensive farming, like most of our owls are, and their loss of habitat and loss of prey. If we see an increase through our work in the tawnies and the barn owls, and of course the little owls, then it stands to reason that we should be also getting an increase in numbers and these guys as well. We are looking, as part of our Project Owl, to find where these pockets of birds are. Now we know there are some that are being conserved in South Wales and Mid Wales. There's pockets there, and the Scottish, as I say, the Scottish Raptor Association is doing a lot up in Scotland. But we don't know where the rest of them are really through this country. I had a lovely email from a guy today with a YouTube recording of what sounds like a long-eared owl chick, which is really exciting. So I've invited him. Hopefully he'll come and join us, because it would be lovely to get some data on there. We have, where I am down in South Oxfordshire, Berkshire borders, we have had sightings apparently of them around here, but because they're so reclusive, because they're so quiet, and because they are right at the top of trees when they nest, it's really, really difficult to get a handle on where they are. So this is the time of year to find them, because we're listening for the chicks. So that brings me back to Project Owl and our wonderful app, which means you can monitor these guys. There's an ability for you to use text or use a camera shot of where you have heard those birds. So if you've heard them in a certain area, just take a photograph of the area that the habitat you think they're living in, and we can then pinpoint where they are a bit more easily, and maybe set up a proper scheduled surveying of these birds once we have an indication of where they are. We've just done an upgrade on the app, which now means that you can save and create your own database from your summary. So when you do a track, that goes onto your summary page. If you've taken a photograph, that's there as well. You can now save that through email or whatever, WhatsApp, any of those options, and then create your own database so that you know what you've seen and where you've seen it. And as I've mentioned before, that app is free with our memberships. So we'd love more people to get involved. We've got some really good tracking going on. The chicks are already started. Some of them are out and about. So the tawnies and the long-eared are already, in some cases, out and about. I was up with on one of the farms that I monitor on, and the little owls apparently, although our nest box hasn't been used, they are up there, and the parents have been heard scolding, which means the little owls chicks are about 3 weeks old, so they're out and about too. And we have got barn owl chicks that are quite young, but barn owls are different. They don't come out, they don't fledge from branching. They stay in their boxes or their holes until they look like proper barn owls, and they fledge then. So there's lots to hear and there's lots to see at the moment. So please come and join us. They're not that difficult to find. I've already done a signs and signals session last week, and for all those trackers that are WAT trackers that are already with us, then I will be doing updates of what to look for and how to find things regularly for them. So please, if you go to our website, our membership button is on the front page. It's about halfway down. If you scroll down, press the button and come and join us and get your app and be one of our citizen science family, and help us move forward and help these wonderful birds. If you've got any questions about any of the things I've done so far, please do message us through Facebook, and I'll come back and answer all of your questions as soon as I see them. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully I'll see you next Monday. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing because it's weather dependent. So I'll be posting during the week to let you know what the subject will be next week. Have a good evening. Thank you.